All right, and we are good to go. So first, let me say hi to everyone joining us. You probably know me already. I am Alicia from New VA Advice, where I offer business, marketing, and mindset coaching for virtual assistants to help them get out of overwhelm and create a business that they love. And today we are going to talk all about mindset, and I feel like this is such an important topic, so I'm so glad that we have our guest today with us to go over this. Basically, we're talking about how to think like a business owner and not an employee, because honestly, this is the piece that's really going to set you up for success in your business. And it's something that I think we work on all throughout our businesses, regardless of where we are on that path. There's always some kind of mindset piece to be working on. So I want to welcome Yolanda Crowley as our guest today. Yolanda, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yay. I'm so excited about this. I think Yolanda and I met, where did we meet? Was it in the Virtual Assistant Empowerment Facebook group, or I can't really remember anymore how we came across each other?
I can't even remember either. I think maybe we knew each other on Twitter. I think I knew about you from some other VAs, and I would just always see you. So I think I reached out one day, but I mean, I know I followed you on Twitter, and so this is exciting.
Yeah, well, and that's what I love about online, because you can meet people from anywhere and make really great connections. So yes. However we met, I'm glad that we did. So let me tell everyone a little bit about you. Yolanda helps aspiring VAs start their business, gain clarity, and learn how to become a valuable asset to their clients. She also works one-on-one with business owners to save them time and frustration of finding their ideal VA. So I love that there's like two components here. She also helps connect business owners with the right VA for them. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be talking about mindset today, but before we jump into it, Yolanda, tell us a little bit about you, how you got started online and your business or businesses.
Sure. I am a proud owner of Crowley Assistant Services, and I think it was just the other day where I looked online and I realized that I've been in business now for 4 years, and I started out as a VA. I'm still a VA as well, and I have over 16 years of administrative and executive assistant background, and was in corporate America for the longest time. And I offer those actually three services, helping business owners find a VA, a virtual assistant myself, and then working with virtual assistants to start their own business. So a long time in corporate, and I'm glad to be out of that. So that's a long time in corporate. So I think that's the case for a lot of people, is, being in corporate and just wanting to get out of that and just wanting to have some more freedom and make their own choices. And so it was definitely a great move for me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a big one. You're right. There are a lot of people who get into this from that corporate environment that have, their big why is often that time freedom and the ability to do something you love on your own terms, and that you're building it up for yourself and not just for someone that you're working for who may or may not have your best interests in mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, mm-hmm.
Okay, so today we are talking about mindset. Like I said, I love this topic, but I am going to let you go ahead and take over. And I'm going to also, anyone who's watching, please feel free to put questions in the comments. And I'm going to try to field those and make a note. And then we'll go over those at the end. If there are any questions, I'll kind of keep track of that, and we'll jump in and answer that at the end.
Okay, great, thanks. As I mentioned, how I got my start was I had a bunch of corporate America experience, and my last job that I had was working for probably the worst boss I've ever had in my life. He yelled at his employees. I think profanity was his first language, and being his assistant, I was expected to be on call 24/7, and which I didn't know about, and I didn't know that I was expected to be on call until I was already in the job, and that's a long story. so that's when I first started thinking about, a few years into the job, I started thinking about being a VA. My husband and I were thinking about moving cross country, and I just realized I did not want another job. So once I actually set myself up and running into this business, it took me a long time to realize that I was no longer somebody's employee. It was really hard for me to get out of that mindset. Especially if you've never had a business before, which I hadn't. And in the beginning, I still thought I was an employee. I sent out resumes as they were requested. I sent out proposals, changing my rates all over the place and just trying to get business. And I let people walk all over me because I wanted the work. And I honestly didn't know any better. So see, if you've set yourself up in a business, that means you've registered your business, depending on your state, perhaps you have a business license, you set up the business structure, meaning, an LLC, or you're a sole proprietor, what have you. You also have set rates and packages, and you may or may not have a team. If you've set up your business, if you've set up a business, you are a business owner. It's not a job. You don't work for someone. You work with clients, and you have a say in who you work with and when you work. And you charge what you want. You don't accept less. And you only do the work that you want to do. So, if your specialty is working on websites, you're not going to be answering somebody's phone. You're doing the jobs that you want to do, and you get to pick and choose. And if somebody comes across if somebody reaches out to you and says, hey, I'd be interested in working with you, and you get on the phone with them and they just sound like a complete nightmare, you can say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm all full, or, I don't think this is going to be a good fit. You have that choice. So that's the wonderful thing about being a business owner. You get to choose who you want to work with and when you want to work. If you want to work Tuesday afternoons, that's it. You can do that. So it's awesome. But the thing is, you have to tell people in the beginning, and I'm going to get into that in a second. But I see so many people that come into the VA groups, and one of their first questions is, how do I get jobs? Well, your client is a client. They're not a manager, and they're not your boss. And each client has to abide by your rules, which is really your contract, and respect your boundaries. And it took me a long time to set up boundaries in the very beginning. I honestly did not know any better. So boundaries only work if you set them up in the very beginning in your contract. You put in there when you work, what days you have off. If you work from 9 to 5, that doesn't mean you're available. That doesn't mean like you're sitting there by the phone waiting for them, from 9 to 5. That's just when you happen to be in your office, and you will answer their email at certain times during the day. You have holidays off, you have weekends off, whatever you choose, you can work whenever you want. So, in fact, this happened to me recently with one of my clients. He happens to be, I'm on the East Coast and he's on the West Coast, so he's 3 hours behind me. And this was a Friday afternoon. He messaged me on our messaging system, and I can't even remember what time, right around 2 o'clock or so, my time. And I didn't see it at first because I was busy doing something else. And within half an hour, he messaged me again going, hey, can we jump on a video chat to discuss a new project? And I said, and at this point it was after 3, and I'm like, no. And I said, I'm not, I'm busy doing something else, but I said, I'm available by phone to see what this is about. And so we hopped on the phone and he said, hey, are you available to start a new project right now? And it was after 3 on a Friday. Are you available to start a new project right now? No, I'm not. Let's talk on Monday. And he said, oh, okay, sure, no problem. Let's schedule a call for Monday and we can go over this project. Boom. That was done. So I set that up in the beginning because I had told him I work until 5 o'clock Eastern time. And he respected that. And so no problem. If I had said, oh, sure, I'll jump right on that for you. Well, I do also have it in my contract. There's a rush fee. If somebody needs something that day and, I'll do it, but I'm going to tell you, hey, it's going to charge you extra for this if I have time to do it. So that's also something I recommend to put in the contract. It's certainly optional. That's up to you. But it's just setting another boundary of what you will and will not do. So I highly recommend that. So it's all about the mindset. It's just, again, it's clients are not your boss. I think of it as you're working together. They're in need of a service and you can provide that service. So it's just all about getting it in your mind that I'm setting up these boundaries, I'm setting up a contract, and you're going to abide by that contract, and you just think that way. So you work when you want to work, you work with who you want to work with, and when you want to work, you work on what you want to work on. So it's just all about getting in that mindset, and that took me a very long time to do, and I'm so glad I did it. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about is how to present yourself to a potential client. This, like I said, it's kind of up for debate. I know some people think, resumes are okay. And I personally don't think that they're needed because if you're a business owner, you don't use a resume. I always just ask, would you ask your hairstylist to see their resume before you went to them? Would you go up to a plumber and ask to see their resume? No, you look at reviews. You look at their website. You look to see their information. You ask around to people that you know. And it's the same with a VA, with any business owner. Just like you ask and get feedback on others or from others. And so one of the things that I feel is really important to present yourself is just by having that online presence. And for example, when I'm in groups, whether it be Facebook or LinkedIn or just any type of online group, I'll see people giving awesome advice, and I want to know more about them. And so I'll click on their profile, and there's nothing there. I don't even know where they live. So it doesn't show nothing about a VA business, doesn't show any jobs that they have, and there's just absolutely nothing there. So how I would like to be able to look at their Facebook profile and possibly go to a Facebook page or maybe go to their website. I recently saw a post from a woman who was seeking VA work, and she listed a few of her skills, which sounded really awesome. And so I went to her Facebook personal profile, and it said that she worked at a well-known amusement park. And I thought that was kind of confusing. So she did also have a website, so I clicked on that. And again, it didn't say anything about a VA business. And I think it was just more of like a personal blog that she was doing. And it just talked about this amusement park that she worked at. So it was just really confusing. She had her LinkedIn profile listed, so I looked at that. And again, it just had this amusement park that she worked at. Not really a whole lot of information. There wasn't anything about being a VA. It listed like a few of her skills, but didn't have any testimonials of who she had worked for, what kind of work she had done with these skills. I just felt like I had to like move all over the place to try and find out stuff about her, and I really didn't find out anything about her. So it made me wonder if being a VA was it really her business, or was it more of a hobby? I didn't understand. So, I mean, it made me wonder if this was a hobby for her. I mean, what if somebody hired her? Would she leave in a few months? And she didn't have any online presence for being a VA. And so, I mean, honestly, I moved on from that. So, and I realized that setting up a website can be very confusing and frustrating. And I know I had a lot of issues with it in the very beginning, and it was just like, oh my God, I don't know what to do with this, and I was just so confused. And that's fine. If you're just starting out and you don't have a website, I think that's perfectly fine. But social media pages are free. Facebook pages are free. LinkedIn pages are free. Twitter is free. And I'm not saying you have to be everywhere, because that can get really overwhelming, trying to be everywhere all at once, trying to concentrate on a few places. My main places are Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Those are the three where I get my most traffic, and I found that out off of Google Analytics. But you don't have to be everywhere, but setting up those pages are free, and setting up a Facebook page, and just putting in a simple opt-in, just having your contact information on there, just telling about what services you offer, all of that is available, and you can put that in a Facebook page. And again, if you don't have a website, I personally recommend just having a completely filled out LinkedIn profile, and that can show your contact information. It tells what you do, what services you offer, depending on what skills you offer, what services you're offering. You can have a portfolio in there for graphic design. Maybe you've created some websites. You can embed that all into a LinkedIn profile. And that shows any testimonials as well from past clients, past employers. That shows where you've worked in the past. That shows what groups you belong to, what your interests are, and that can all go inside your LinkedIn profile, and that is free. So, and that's, if you have that all filled out, and if anybody complains about like, oh, can I see your resume? I just give them my LinkedIn profile. It's basically all the same information, and it's free. So, and another way to quickly, to have an online presence and to present yourself to a potential client is to follow directions. So, I see so many VAs losing out on opportunities and potential revenue by simply not following directions. I see posts every day looking for a VA, and the poster or the person writing the post will say, PM me at, or email me at, and it never fails. There's always a bunch of people in there, doing the exact opposite of what the poster wanted. And so, honestly, if you can't follow simple instructions in a job assignment, in a job advertisement, such as, email me at, how can you be expected to work well with that client? And again, if you don't follow directions and decide to, like, let's just say the person wanted you to email them at their email address. If you don't follow those instructions and you send them a private message, more than likely that, that message is going to go into if you're not friends with that person, that message is going to go into their request folder, and they're never going to, they probably won't see it. So you just lost out on a potential opportunity because you didn't follow directions. And it just says so, it just doesn't appear, my dog's back here. it just doesn't appear very professional. And it just really, it just doesn't, you're just losing out on so much by not following directions. And it just takes a few seconds just to read it, and okay, here's her information, and here's what she's asking, here's what I need to do. And a lot of times people, I mean, I know I've done it. I've asked people to, email me at my email address. And it's because, for one, I like to see if people can follow directions. But two, I like to have all of the emails coming into, all the responses coming into one central place. I don't want to be searching in my email, in my message requests, in my, text messages, and I don't want to be searching all over the place for that. No, just send it to me in one place. That way I have it all in one central location. I know a lot of other people that do that as well. They just want to streamline it all. They don't want to be going all over the place. So it's just really important to follow directions, and just that makes you appear in such a good light. So that's all I have.
Huge. Let me tell you, you're talking and I'm writing down all of these notes, because to me, there are so many, like, what I consider golden nuggets in what you had to say. And I want to recap the beginning part of what you were talking about with mindset. And here comes my dog making noises. So. She just woke up, apparently. I think the biggest thing here is that you mentioned you are in charge. So you set the rules and parameters that you want for your business. Someone else doesn't set it for you. A potential client doesn't set it for you. So this is why I always say it's important to think about what your why is and what you really want the business to look like when you're going into it. So if someone's going to be a good fit for you or not, and the way that you like to work, the times that you like to work, the way that you can communicate with somebody. I'll give an example. When I first started, many of you probably know that, I was pregnant. I started my business. When I really started first getting clients, I had a newborn. And so for me, I couldn't necessarily be on the phone at certain hours. I couldn't be doing video of things. So I knew I needed to really focus on services that didn't matter what time of day. It couldn't be specific. So for example, I couldn't take on clients who needed customer service at a certain hour of the day, because that wasn't my life. It wasn't my schedule. I was on a baby schedule. I was nursing. And so I had to do whatever I could around what he wanted. Mm-hmm. So I had to be conscious of that. And I want others to think about that. Maybe you're not in a position like I was where, you have to work around certain hours, but maybe you want to. Like you said, maybe Tuesdays is your day to do X, or you want to take off. You never want to work Wednesdays, whatever it is. If you set it up for yourself ahead of time in your business, then it's a lot easier to think about, okay, well then what kinds of services can I provide that will allow that to happen in my life? And what kinds of people do I want to work with who will be totally cool with that, because maybe they work that way too. Right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Yeah, it's big. The other thing I like, you mentioned to me, like I underline this, like boundaries equals respect. And people say, well, how do I set those boundaries? You said simply put them in your contract. To me, that's everything. And it's totally okay to change your contract and add things later, because I think a lot of us end up doing that, right? You figure out, you end up in a certain situation with a client and you say to yourself, I don't ever want that to happen. Put it in your contract. That way, the next time, right, you get somebody new on, it's already in there, we're covered. Mm-hmm. That situation's taken care of. Yes. The other thing I wanted to mention here is I tell people, I know that it's hard to separate your business from you, because you are your business, right? But you have to remember, this is business though. So don't let someone take advantage of you for that. And you can simply tell people, so that you don't feel like it's personal, if you want to say no to someone, because saying no is an important thing that we have to do. If you don't want to work the hours that they want you to work, or you don't want to meet some crazy deadline that was not discussed initially, or you just don't like that kind of person, remember that this is a business. It's no reflection on you personally. So for example, if there was something in your contract and they're asking you to go against that and do something, instead of saying, I don't want to do that, you can say, I'm sorry, if you check your contract, it's right there. It's business policy. This is policy that. So you're even taking the I, me, you out of it by saying words like, it's policy that, or in the contract, please note that. Again, I feel like that's a mindset thing, right? Because some people, that's to them is like, oh my goodness, I didn't even think about that. I could put it that way and not make it personal.
It's hard in the beginning, especially if you're working with a friend or a family member. I've done the friend thing, and I won't do that again, because it just really, it's just a gray area. It just really kind of blurred. The lines just went, and it wasn't a good thing. So, yes, exactly. Keep it, business, business, business. So it's so important. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I certainly don't mean it in a sense that you need to be cold to someone, right? I mean, you want your personality to come through. You want to resonate with someone. You want to get that know, like, and trust factor. But, I was gearing it more towards that whole boundaries thing. I think, some people are going to listen to this and think, be stuffy. Like, no, you may not want to do that, especially if you're coming out of corporate. It might have been something you didn't like. That it is okay to get to know your clients and be friendly with them, but you do have to recognize, take a minute to think about what your boundaries are and what's important to you, and then make sure it's documented in your contract so that it makes it easier for you to enforce.
Mm-hmm. And it's even important to do that at home too, setting the boundary at home. If you have a dedicated workspace, I've told my husband, if I'm in here and my door is closed, do not bother me. I mean, I don't have a set time where, I'm working on stuff, but it's if my door is closed, that just means I'm working, do not bother me. So if the door is open, you can come in here and talk. And sometimes I forget to close the door, but that's my fault. But no, it's important to set those boundaries at home as well.
You're absolutely right. Friends and family, I think often people don't understand, if they're not in the world that we live in with a virtual, industry, that they don't quite get it. So you find that people may want to take advantage of the time that you have. They think you have time because you're home. Mm-hmm. That equals, oh, you're not that busy. So you're absolutely right. I've definitely had to set boundaries with friends and neighbors who just assumed, oh, well, if you're home all the time, could you help me out and, watch my child for a couple hours here and there for 3 days a week? And I'm like, no, I'm not home just hanging out, not doing anything. This is work for me. So yeah, you're right. It's important.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So your other big topic was about presenting yourself. And I, again, made notes because I was in agreement with a lot of that you need to have an online presence. And yes, it's okay to get away from the resume thing and not to be scared of doing that. And yes, I'm a big advocate for create a website and have that be your home base where you can send people to. But if you're not ready for that step yet, or if it's too overwhelming, like you mentioned, and I felt the same way, I was self-taught with WordPress, and it was really frustrating in the beginning. It took me a while. So make sure you have an online presence in other ways. Make sure that your profiles are filled out saying, what you do. I think it's the whole idea of thinking like a business owner, right? So just because you don't have a client yet, doesn't mean that this isn't your life and your world and what you want, right? So present yourself the way you want others to see you. So I mentioned in the Facebook group before, a while back, I was getting a lot of people wanting to interact with me on Twitter and wanted me to follow them. But when I went to their profiles, it said nothing about being a VA. Like you said, could have been an amusement park. I need to know that we're traveling in the same social circles because we have something in common. And if you're a VA, yeah, I'd love to connect with you. But if I can't tell that from any of your presences online, how do I know that, we have anything in common, or what I'm going to say is of any interest to you and vice versa? Mm-hmm. So yeah, as simple as that, look at the ones where you're most active and present yourself as you want others to see you.
So important. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think you made a big point. Is this a business or a hobby for you? And that's something you need to think about. It's a mindset shift to take this seriously and say, this is something that's going to produce income and something that I'm committed to versus something I'm going to dabble in here and there. I think a lot of people have to take a minute and think about that, because when you really get into it, you realize how much work it is to create a business, right? This isn't, a job. This is a business, and it takes a lot more. And some people think that it's going to be simpler because they can just make money working from home. They get into it and realize there's a lot involved here. So it's just a matter of knowing that you're really committed to this and taking it seriously. And this is not a hobby. There are things that you need to do to commit to it, to make it a business.
Absolutely. And it's one thing I've always said is that, just because you have internet does not mean that you are a VA. There's so much more that goes into it in the beginning. I mean, I honestly thought that setting up the business was the easiest part. I made my business an LLC and, got the business license and did all that stuff. And I thought, honestly, that was the easiest part. The hardest part for me was, marketing myself, figuring out what I'm going to offer, figuring out what to charge. Who do I want to work with? That was the biggest one, was who do I want to work with? Well, anybody who needs help. No, it doesn't work that way. It took so long, and going through all these different changes in my business to figure out what I wanted to do, who I wanted to work with, and set those boundaries and get into that mindset. And like you said, every time that I had a client do something that I didn't like, I wrote it in the next contract. This is a boundary I'm setting because I didn't like this. So, it was a lot of evolving over the past 4 years. So,
Evolving, you're absolutely right. And when I have coaching clients, it's often something I find is sometimes people simply need permission for someone to say, it is okay for you to change this. It's okay for you to go in a different direction. It's okay for you to say, you tried this and you realize it's not your thing and you want to do something else in your business. That is okay. This is your business. So that's why my whole thing is, create a business that you love. This is part of it. You will go through different processes here and evolve over time. You're going to realize the kind of person you really like working with. You're going to realize the kind of services you really like to do. The only way to do it is just go out there and try it. You have to put yourself out there, and then you're allowed to make changes as you go, and redefine things.
Yes. I started out in my business just offering basic admin services. And then over time, as I worked with people, my skills have grown immensely. So I know how to put together landing pages, and I know how to work within websites inside WordPress, and I can dabble in Infusionsoft and set up webinars. It's amazing. And that has taught me, okay, I don't like doing this anymore. Now I like doing this. I'd like to explore this even further. So it's constantly going in a different direction, and I love it. And that's the great thing about being a business owner. Yes, you can change anything you want. You can go in any direction that you want. You can offer this 1 year and maybe decide after, another year that you want to go in this direction. Technology is always changing. So, the sky is really the limit. So.
Absolutely. So I've been noting we've gotten some questions as we're going through. I'm going to move on to those, and some of them aren't necessarily as mindset geared. So I'm thinking maybe I will briefly answer them, and then Yolanda, if you have anything to add to them, please feel free. The first question was, how do you display your skill set as a new VA? So I think this person was saying, when you were talking about having an online presence, this person doesn't have any clients yet. So how do they put themselves out there if they haven't done the work yet? My first pieces of advice are always to think about, is this something that you've done in a previous job? Do you have these skills? Have you performed them already? Then yes, you can list that you've done those things. Just because you haven't done it for your first official, VA client for yourself doesn't mean you don't know how to do it if you've done it in previous jobs. And the other thing I was going to say about that is, can you get testimonials from past employers? Just because they're not VA clients right now, if you've done something for someone in a position, whether it was volunteer or work, can they write up a little something for you that you can put on your website so that people can see some credibility?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can put that on your LinkedIn as well. past employers, they just, a lot of people being in the virtual world, I think a big problem for business owners is trust. They want to know, who is this person? Can I trust them? And so, I mean, you can teach anybody a skill, but I think the most important factor for a lot of people in this virtual world is trust. Can I trust this person? So, I mean, even if you have a testimonial or a recommendation from somebody that doesn't say really anything about your skills, if they say, oh my gosh, she went above and beyond in her tasks and, was with us for 10 years, and that shows stability. And yes, that's absolutely something you can put on your LinkedIn and your website. Mm-hmm.
Good points. The next question said, what about a branding kit? I do have a WordPress website. So tell me if you're thinking something different. I think they're saying, should they create some kind of kit to show people if they do maybe design work? Maybe that's what she's saying. I'm not sure. That's kind of how I'm taking it. I don't know. Should you use the words branding kit? Should she have a branding kit? That's my only thought. If you're doing something where it is something visual like design, you can make sure you get permission from clients or past colleagues to put that work up on your website. And like you said, LinkedIn profile, and kind of make a portfolio, so to speak. If you don't do visual or design work, I don't think that it's necessary to think that you need some kind of portfolio. That's where, testimonials come in, and you're being active on social media to talk about the subject matter that you're doing for people, so that you're showing them that you know the subject matter. You have anything to add to that?
Branding kit, I don't know too much about. I only know one person who does branding, and yes, I was thinking along the same lines as you are, just what is involved. They could put on there like what is involved in a branding kit. You get so many brochures, you get so many consultations, revisions, and definitely show some, if the past clients will approve it, show some past work, possibly some brochures, or even a website that was done in their colors, or their fonts, and like how everything matches. So
yeah, good. I like how you tackled it from that other angle, in case that was where. So I hope that answers the question on that one. One final question was, someone was asking about, how do you suggest a rate increase? They have a client that they don't want to lose. I've told people, again, it's taking that personal out of it. If you've been working with them and you know that you're good at what you do, just remember that everything increases every year. It's inflation, right? I mean, you're not going to pay the same thing you pay this year for cable, or even your hairdresser or your plumber. Those rates are going to go up, and that is okay. So take the personal out of it. Perhaps you pick a date. I like to give people notice. So make note of when they started with you and how far along this is. I wouldn't look to make a rate increase in like 2 months after you started together. Also, please remember what you may or may not have in your contract as far as that goes. I always have something in there that I reserve the right to evaluate. I think I have it, for example, on a yearly basis. Some people do 6 months, because it really depends on the kind of work you're doing for the client. You can simply create kind of a form template email letting them know simply that rates are going to increase on X date. You're currently at this rate. This would be the new rate, but give them time. I know a lot of people have had success by saying, let's say you gave them a 4-month time frame, but you let them know. But right now, your rates are going to stay the same till X date. So if there's anything that you want me to get done for you at this rate, which can often also help people fill in empty spots in their schedule, they let that client know, you have X number of months. If there's anything you want to get done at this rate, please feel free. I have this many openings in my schedule for, whatever it is that you're doing, and just put it out there just like that. You, as Yolanda was saying with this whole mindset thing, this is your business. You don't necessarily have to offer anyone an explanation. You don't have to. It's your business. So to me, if you take that personal part out of it and be worried about, how are they going to think about me? prices increase every year for everything. I've personally done it myself. Yes, it was very scary to me the first time I did it for a couple clients. And I think they expected it. I think one was actually surprised because it was 3 years that we were working together and I never did a rate increase because I was scared. And she totally expected it and thought I should have done it sooner. So I think you might be surprised with what you find. But if you keep it very make notes in your contract and then send an email, give them a time frame, give them time. Don't say it's going to change tomorrow. You should be successful with that. Do you have anything to add to that?
Just one thing. I mean, if you want to, for new clients, if you want to raise your rates for new clients, yeah, definitely raise your rates to that. But for existing clients, if it's, you can either, raise the rates to your new price, in 6 months time or whatever, or you can, hey, I'm changing my rates to X. But since you've been such a good client for the past year, I'm only going to charge you, maybe just, maybe 10% of that rate.
Percentage increase.
So, I really enjoy working with you and I'm going to increase, your rates will increase to this. Normally they're this, but just because I really value our business relationship. So, but definitely for new clients, up that price. So.
Yes. Agreed. And right, like you said, when you are thinking about new people, right, it's okay if you list your rates on your website and you just decide to change them one day, change it for anybody new that's looking at it. So hopefully that helped answer the question about how to deal with a current client that you love and don't want to lose with a rate increase. I think that covers the questions that came in, but I would say that if there's anything else, feel free to post in this, and Yolanda and I can go back in and check later and see if there's any questions we can answer. I'm sure you don't mind doing that, correct? I'm volunteering you to help for questions. But the big thing is, like I said, mindset is such an important topic, and I think we've only really scratched the surface today. So if this is something that you want to find out more about and you like Yolanda's style and the way that she's teaching things, she is also speaking at the upcoming VA Virtuosos online seminars, which I love. I'm going to be speaking again this year, and I wrote down the date. So it runs from October 16th to the 20th, and Yolanda's talking on Friday the 20th. And it's about this topic. So she's going to get a lot more in detail about mindset and go over other pieces, including how to charge, what you're worth, and how to deal with that with mindset in mind. So I really invite you to come and check her out there. Like I said, VAVS is such a great event. I love attending. The nice part about it is it's this huge networking event, but you don't have to leave your house. And it's crazy affordable. It is $37. And this year there's going to be 20 speakers. I made a note of a couple topics that I thought people in my kind of audience would find interesting and helpful right now. So I mentioned Yolanda's talk on mindset, and it's going to go in more detail than we did today. I'm going to be speaking on, in general, how to create a VA business that you love, how to make it something that you love doing. Someone's going to be speaking on how to leave your full-time job and do VA work full-time, how to do that transition. Someone's going to talk about how to use LinkedIn to get leads. Mm-hmm. And there's also a talk on how to build a multi-VA company. So if you want to grow it from working with just you to go to multi-VA. And we're actually going to have a presentation tomorrow with Tammy Durden, who's going to be hosting that at VAVS. She's going to go over some of those concepts with us tomorrow. So I will put links in everything, and this replay will be available. But if you want to know more about VAVS, as we call it for short, you can go to newvaadvice.com/VAVS, and we would love to join you there. Like I said, it's really fun networking, right? Because they leave the chat open in between all the sessions. So you can get in there and talk to people and chat with people. I like going in there and talking with people that, maybe I only see them in these seminars. And so it's fun to catch up. And then there's new people. I meet new people in there all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I was part of it 2 years ago, and it's just, it's a great community, and it's a great event. So,
yeah. Well, good. Yolanda, I really appreciate you doing this with us today. This was so fun, and I love that you're to me, I like to share others who are really contributing to the virtual assistant industry and community. And you're so good at that. You're very giving without necessarily looking for something in return. You really are just genuinely wanting to empower people with information. And I am all about that. So how can we find out more about you personally? Where would you want people to check you out, whether it's a website or LinkedIn or, wherever you like to contact people and talk to them the most?
Sure. You can go to yolandacrowley.com, and I have a link in the navigation bar that's information just for virtual assistants, and there's free resources on there. It's just some great information, so check it out.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, thank you for joining us. We're going to wrap it up. Like I said, though, if you watch this and you have other questions, please post them in the Facebook group, whether it's under the link or, for this seminar, or if you want to just post in the group and tag one of us, and we will jump in and answer. So I hope everybody has a great day. Thanks for joining.
Thanks.